Hey there, this is Malorian, and what I'm going to be doing today is continuing my series about Warmachine and Hordes, and we've already kind of touched about how the game works, how do you make a list, but you know what? Something that is also very important and part of this is how do you pick your faction? Now, a faction is kind of like an army in 40K or Codex or, army list type thing when it comes to the fantasy side, but over here the different groups are called factions. And so a lot of new people getting into Warmachine or Hordes really want to know, well, what's the right faction for me? Because they take a look at all the different ones out there and they want to make sure they don't screw up, right? They don't want to buy models and then find out, oh, this sucks and I really want to go with this. And so I thought it'd be good to do a video which would really cover all this. Now again, there's Warmachine, there is Hordes, and it doesn't really matter which one you like more. Pretty much the biggest question you should ask yourself, whether you're going Warmachine or Hordes, is that do you want to go robots or beasts? That's really the only difference. Past that, they're all going to have troops. They're all going to have solos. They're all going to have all the different types of things. The real difference is going to be whether it's robots or beasts as far as the aesthetic goes. And then, of course, you have the focus mechanic versus the fury mechanic. But, I mean, just to be clear again, for the new players, they're intermingling, and you can play one against the other. There's nothing stopping you doing that. Now, I guess one of the other things I can really attack right away before we get into these is first of all, I'm not a super fluff guy. I've read some of the fluff. I can tell you what some of the factions are about. But if you want to know the exact backstory for all this and this is blah, 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 I'm sorry. I don't have all that information. You'll have to get that from somewhere else. But I can give you an idea about what the faction is about and the different ways you can play it and things like that. Now, another quick thing is people are like, I don't care about all this stuff. Don't tell me about the backstory of Circle. All I want to know is what is the most powerful army, and I want to play it right now. And the big thing here is that that's not really a big question you should be asking because it's a very balanced game. Back in Mark 1, there's some issues with balance, but right now, things are very well balanced. And whereas some of the main factions, say as Retribution, before they're like, oh, it's one of the worst factions. Privateer Press then has done their job saying, okay, they have a problem dealing with stealth. Let's give them a solo to let them deal with that problem so that if that's really your big thing stopping you from winning tournaments, all right, here's an answer to this. And so really when you're looking at all the main factions, it doesn't matter if I'm going Signar or Crix or Scorn or Circle, I can win with any of those. Those are all very, very competitive. If you look at tournament results, if you look at the people going to the WTC, pretty much every army is going there. Now, that being said, there are a few that are underdeveloped. So the biggest one I can say there is, you can say mercenaries and minions. Even mercenaries, I mean, there's a lot of options, but it's really there to help out the other factions. You can make ones just for them, and you can make some very, very strong mercenary lists, but minions is one of these ones where you just don't have a lot of options. And whereas in some of these other ones we're going to talk about, okay, there's different groups within, and you can mix and match all you want. For minions, there's going to be two limited groups, and they don't work together. And so you have these really limited lists. And but even then, even if you take them, they're still going to be really strong if played well. They're not maybe at that level as everybody else, but it's not like you're playing with the utter garbage and you're never going to win. So there's that first one out of the way. If you want to know what can I play, like what's the best one, don't even think about that. So what I'm going to be doing now is going to screen share. And I'm going to be going to the Privateer Press site. So this is just privateerpress.com. And in here you can see all the great things like what models are coming up and all the other cool things. But the two biggest things we're going to be looking at is this tab here for Warmachine and this one here for Hordes. Now if I go into Warmachine, I can go into Gallery. And inside here, it's going to show all the main factions here. So if I go into Signar, which is my awesome one that I play, that's broken up to Warcasters, Warjacks, units, solos, battle engines, and colossals. And then also a little exclusives exclusives as well. Now, what is Signar? Signar is kind of like your basic good guy. They're the ones that are kind of like the nobles of the land. They're the ones that are kind of running things, oppressing the others. But they're kind of like your blue good guys. You know, they're your plain normal people about that. Now, you could really say that Signar is all about just shooting. It's all just about lightning and electro leaps and stuff like this. But the big thing you have to realize is that you can play them a lot of different ways. I mean, you got a lot of cool casters in here. You know, you got some that are all shooty, some that are dealing with jacks. You know, all the different magical types here. Nemo really likes lightning. With the jacks here, you know, a lot of their jacks are usually based off the same couple of chassis. They'll be the same for most of them. Dynamo is going to be coming out soon. But, you know, a lot of them are pretty much the same. We got some unique ones like Thunderhead. But the biggest thing that I want to show here is when I get to units. Now, in units, you kind of have either these kind of cavalier type guys here with the pistols. You also have kind of these trencher guys you could be going with. You know, kind of the same look here for the long gunners. You got kind of like these Templar guys with that little look. Then we have this whole Storm. So like the Storm Blades, the Storm Guard, blah, blah, blah. You have that type of a look. And then that continues to, I mean, you got little sword knights that can be going with, I guess, with the, you know, the precursor knights for the whole Templar theme. And so the biggest thing is that you have to realize that there are multiple themes within each army. So it's not like, oh, I'm playing Signar, guess we all have guns. No, I can be running an army that's all jacks, that's all troops, that's all shooty, that's all melee. Different factions will be stronger at different things, but it's not huge. You know, it's not like Signar only does shooting. We do shooting very well, but we can also do combat fairly well if we just change the way our list is made up. So that's really what Signar is kind of all about. So if we go back now, we're going to be talking about Menoth. Now, Menoth, they're kind of, again, it's all broken down the same way. They're kind of like the church ones. So they're a big enemy for Signar, trying to fight them, blah, blah, blah. But really looking at their whole thing, they're all going to be based off churches, like, you know, not, you know, crosses and prayers and all these things. Again, most of the jacks will be built off the same sort of chassis, you know, just different modifications, which is also nice if you like to do magnetization, especially with these kits now. You buy 3 in one box. You just magnetize to be whatever you want. But here in the units, again, to kind of show you this stuff, a lot of them will be the cloak type of things, but we got like these ninja girls that you could be, right? Where it's kind of like more of this like ninja theme. You have this whole type of theme here with the big shoulder pads and these type of warrior guys. It's kind of like the Storm version from Signar. That's what these guys are here. Again, you got more ninjas on horses, so you can be doing that way. And then all of a sudden you got like Idrians. And Idrians are kind of like these wild nomad skirmishers that you can have fight for you. And so again, I mean, multiple themes you can be doing within the Menoth one here. Coming up to Kadar, they're basically your Russians. So people look at them, you're going to see all the big hats, you know, usually a lot of winter themes, stuff like that. A lot of times their jacks are slower, so their jacks are also seen as being fairly bad. Normally only take 1. They got a couple of awesome ones, say like, you know, Behemoth or something, but for the most part, their jacks are pretty slow. And they usually go around just their units. But then again, they got a warcaster named Karchev, who is a jack himself, so you can always be doing that too. But meanwhile, for their units, you know, you have your Russian-looking guys with the, you know, the furry hats and stuff, but you also have like these commandos and things you can be going with. So you can be going with these type of guys. You can be going with these crazy guys with these big swords. You know, you got magic ones, pikemen. You got these Kayazi assassins. You know, they're elite assassins, the eliminators. Then they have a lot of these ones that are on these medium bases where they have 8 boxes each. They have these ones that can shoot out the AoEs. They have these ones with the hammers, the ones that can go into shield wall and be really strong. Then they have their shooters, be they the snipers or the Winter Guard infantry. You know, again, lots of different themes you can play with them. But in general, you see Kadar being more infantry. But then again, Warmachine as a whole is normally more infantry. Now you have Crix. Cricks are basically your bad guy undead things. And they are definitely about the infantry. They have some really awesome infantry, some really awesome casters, and they're still, even with that, different looks. I mean, we have the whole, we're the undead, knights, and that's our thing. But meanwhile, working for Cricks as well, we have, like, here we are, we're like these ooze, little decaying death things. They're going to explode and kill everything around them. Then we have the whole ghost theme that you can be working around. Then we also have kind of, where are they? Well, like these kind of like mechanothralls, where they're half or living thing, half machine, half undead, rather. Then I'm trying to find some of these guys. And you have these kind of more pirate thing going on, or these witch pirates going around, and that's kind of their thing. They're kind of like these undead pirates, and so you have all these different types of mixes and all the things they do. And again, I mean, it's not like they have to be that. One of the casters here, Mortenebra, if you really like the jacks, runs them very, very well. Here she is, and she will make your jacks freaking amazing. So don't think that you're ever forced to go just one way. So that's really Cricks. Then you get into Retribution. Again, Retribution for a while seen as one of the most weakest, but they really have their own set of tricks too. They have a full up, you have this whole thing where, oh, I just got popped and dropped and stuff. This thing, feet go, where they have these mage hunter assassins, and they just have these crossbows, and they'll go and they'll shoot your mage or your caster killer or him, and then it's game over. But it's not always just about shooting. They have a lot of melee troops. They have kind of like, they're kind of built with these different ones for them themselves as well. Like they have the House Guard, and I'm trying to find some of the other names, Dawn Guard and all these things. But and they have more of these more like little ninja guys that came out. Again, different ways you could play them. There's some of them that run the jacks very well. There's some that run the colossal very well. There's some that like going shooty infantry. But one thing to say, that if you are more of a painter and you're going with Retribution, make sure you like white. Then again, hey, if you don't feel that you have to paint exactly what Privateer Press tells you, because you don't have to, and most of the things you don't need to paint at all. But if you're one of those people who likes to paint by the book, be ready to be very good with white, because they have white everywhere. Then we go to Mercenaries, and I talked about Mercenaries before, and they definitely have a lot of different options. Right away in the jacks, you can kind of see how there's kind of like these marine type jacks, there's these dwarf type jacks, then there's kind of the more regular jacks, and that really goes into it. Plus now we have this new faction, the Cephalics, that just came out, and they actually have like these living guys that work off kind of a jack grid, so that's kind of crazy. But their units are going to be all over the board. I mean, if you're looking for an army that has the everything, that's going to be these guys. So I mean, you got undead you could be putting in there. You have pirates you could be putting in there. Little assassins, these NIST guys that are also assassins. All these different types of mercenaries and bounty hunters and trolls and humans and dwarves. And really, there's so many different things you can do here. Now, keep in mind that there are actually 4 main mercenary contracts. And normally when you're doing that, it's going to limit what you can take. So, I mean, you could go Seerforge, and that's really your dwarf one. Or there's your Talion chapter, that's really your pirates. Or you can also go with 4-star, or all these different things. But then again, I mean, if you don't want to be forced into certain ones, you can also take a lot of these guys and just other factions too. You've probably seen these ones in particular a lot with my Signar. I love taking the Pressgangers, and Epic Iris is always awesome. So sometimes, if you really like these mercenary things, just find another army they work for and get the best of both worlds. And then we have Convergence. Now, Convergence is pretty special. They basically are like this galactic race, and I can't really, again, I'm not really big into the fluff, but really they are far and away more technologically advanced than anybody else, but more from like a functionality. These things are like a one-time release, whereas all the other factions were slowly getting things all the time. These guys are just, new faction, bam, here's the everything, and you're done. So if you're one of these people who want to kind of like see everything that's there and collect it, well, this might be the one for you. However, if you know in the future, while everybody else is getting things, you might get frustrated that you're not really getting any more updates, any new models, or anything like that. As well, they have an interesting mechanic where when you're allocating focus, all of a sudden it's going from one jack to the next and all these things. So if you are new to the game, I actually would not suggest convergence. They look really cool, but unless you're a very patient person and someone who likes to really plan out your turns, this is probably not the faction for you. But overall, that is the Warmachine. So now we're going to go over to Hordes, go to their gallery, and here you're going to have theirs. And you notice already that they have 2 less factions than the Warmachine. Warmachine has been around longer than the Hordes, so I mean, eventually we're going to be getting more here, but it's just a matter of time. And the first one is going to be the Troll Bloods. And many say the Troll Bloods are like the actual only good guys of the game because they're supposed to be like the natives of the lands. They're the ones who are first here, and everyone's really just oppressing them and using them against everybody else. So, again, I mean, a lot of their beasts, they haven't really got a lot of heavies in a long time. They have a whole bunch of lights, but their heavies, they don't seem to normally get any more of those. Their troops here, again, there are some different ones you can go with. I mean, the Fen Blades, the Krell Warriors. You have a lot of different shooty versions, but a lot of times people go with the combat over the shooty. You can always make shooty trolls work, but they're usually more about the combat. But again, they have, it's not really different looks, but I mean, they have their cav models. They have their trolls around Buffalo. They have their medium infantry as well, and they do that very well. If you're on the list of Meat Mountain, that's really the Troll Bloods taking just tons and tons of the warders and champions and stuff like that, and definitely do very well at that. Plus, trolls in general, everybody's going to have tough. So a third of the time, whenever you kill one of these models, they're just going to be knocked down instead, and they'll be fine. So very, very annoying, and can definitely be very strong. Normally, they are more of a grind army as opposed to a rush and kill or, you know, dancing around the board. They're more just, they like to make a brick or a big blob and go from there because they have a lot of buffs that like to keep things together. And that's normally how they work. But again, you can make them work in different ways if you wish. Next is going to be Circle. Come on. Come on. And this one here is going to be kind of your more forest stuff. Their extreme here is really awesome. But by the way, they're coming more your foresty type guys, your hippies. And right away from the beast, you're going to notice some different things. You got your werewolves, you got your goats, and you got like, your little kind of golems that you can use as well. So little different archetypes there. So whether you like more of the golem look or if you like more of the werewolf thing, you know, it's all really here together. And you can always mix it as well. A lot of times you have people that only like the golems or only like the living, but you can always mix them as well. Then again, there's certain casters that will really focus on the constructs, is what these are called, and then there's other ones that will really more focus on the war beasts. So it really depends on the situation. Meanwhile, for the units, here what you're going to be seeing is kind of like a druid look for a lot of it. Then you're going to be kind of having these kind of wild men. I'm trying to find a better one here, where these are kind of more like these wild people of the forest. And it's mainly between those two. And then you have kind of like these crazy, like, you know, we're actually like walking wolves type thing, but we're not quite beasts. So that's the main aesthetic. Plus you have just like stones that are teleporting around, helping you out. By the way, we're now into Hordes. We're not in Warmachine, and you start seeing a lot more beasts because, again, for the Fury mechanic, you need to be drawing off the Fury to make them work. So if you're going to be picking a Warmachine faction based off looks, I would be looking at the infantry. If you're picking a Hordes army based off looks, I'd be looking at the beasts, because whereas normally you have only one jack in Warmachine, I would say it's more average to have 3 beasts in the Horde side. And for their playstyle, normally they're a little bit more sneaky. They're all about trying to find the angles where if you could piece together this puzzle, you can kill whatever you want, but they can be a little bit more fragile. So they're a little bit more of a finesse army. But again, there's different ways to play them. They can do the brick, they can do shooty, they can do lots of different stuff. Then we come to Scorn. Now, Scorn in general is kind of more of this kind of Egypt, Persian type of mix here, but they're usually more based around combat. Their jacks here mainly look like big elephant monster things, but they also have these cyclopses. You know, we got these rhinodons. You have these other things mixed in too, but the classic are these elephants type beasts that you see there. Their units, of course, they have a lot of the different ones, and they really cover everything. They have very strong medium infantry. You know, they got ranged infantry, sword, spear, you know, your cav. They really cover the infantry very well. Unfortunately, you know, their battle engine, this is actually supposed to be one of the worst ones. The Gargantuan's pretty cool, but overall, Scorn is mainly a melee-based force. It's a lot more rare that you see a shooting one, but it is certainly possible. Then you have Everblight. This is actually my first faction because I thought it looked awesome, and they're all based off of this dead dragon. So basically, this dragon was defeated, but his essence was survived, and he's trying to slowly trying to reincarnate himself, basically by giving a little part of his soul, basically, to these avatars of his. They're going to go out there and try and raise up everybody else to their cause by blighting them. So. Kind of interesting, you know, you got all these beasts that have this very unique look to them. Some people call them like the land sharks or whatever, but they're usually kind of like dragon-esque. You know, if you're a 40K player and you love Tyranids, this might be the one for you. But they definitely have some very awesome beasts. Their units, they have really good units. A lot of times people avoid them, though, just because the beasts are so good. But just know that it's all here. You got your medium, you got your range, you got your combat, you got your cheap throwaway, you got everything there. And, of course, you got the casters that cover everything, too. Probably the best-looking Gargantuan of them all. And whereas before people said it was pretty bad, actually you can make it work with a couple of casters. So just know that there are tons of ways to be playing Legion, and they're pretty cool. But normally, again, be looking at the beasts if you're going to be wanting to deal with them. Oops, wrong one. Then we go to minions. This is our last one here, and this is where you're going to really see. First of all, things are really limited here. They will have a battle engine coming out. It's not here yet, but it's coming. But if we just go to the beasts, you're going to see that there's two main things here. There are the gators, and then there's also the pigs. And this is where we really divide this, where it's one faction, but there's either Thornfall, which is the pigs, or there's the, Blindwater, which is the gators. And they don't really mix very well. They're really, I can only take this, and I can only take that. Their units are fairly limited. I mean, if you remember from the other ones, I really was scrolling down. Here, there's very few options. They are adding to them now, but by and large, the best one here is these Gatorman Posse. They are amazing, and a lot of times, like when you're taking the Blindwater, it's just, oh, I'm going to take 2-3 units of these guys. I mean, there are no other Gators here to pick from. I really hope they'll come out with another one soon, but we just got to kind of wait and see, I guess. But like I said, you can make these guys work. You can win games, but just know that just from the fact that you're very limited, you're going to have some tactical problems. So there you go. We've now gone and looked at all the factions, and you're probably now asking, well, okay, Malorian, you haven't really helped me. What should I go with? And really what I want to say is go with what looks best for you. When you're ever first getting into an army or into a game, you will enjoy it more if you enjoy the look of it. And if, like I said before too, if you're worried about, oh no, I got into this and this faction sucks, or this is not really my play style, know that all the factions are very well balanced for the most part, other than say like minions. And even within those, if you decide, oh, I want to be going jammy and having lots of infantry, I want to be going beast heavy, I want to be going shooty, I want to be doing this, for the most part, all the different factions cover that. So say, like, for example, back when I played Legion, I was starting to wonder, like, oh, maybe I should start getting into Scorn. But a lot of the general builds I started making for Scorn, I realized I could just be making in Legion anyway. Now, it could be that after you get into the game, you might learn that, wow, I love the way this caster works, and I love these little specifics from different armies. But that would really take a lot of research. I will be going and doing videos now talking about the different casters. But you know what? One of my first casters I fell in love with was Epic Magnus. And I went and I did his tier list, and it was all fluffy and all crazy. But it wasn't that good because I just loved the caster and what he did. And I took this fluffy list that took units from, I believe it was 3 or 4 different armies, and I thought it was hilarious, but it just did not do very well because I was limiting myself so much because it was just based around this one caster. But there you go. If you have any other questions about different factions or different ways, play styles, feel free to type them down below. But either way, that's all the factions, and hopefully you'll find one that works for you and you'll start playing. So we'll see you later. Bye.